Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 6, and this is going to be my review for episode 13 for this season, otherwise entitled Grodd Friended Me, and wow, stuff went down, that's the best way to say. But of course, if you don't watch the episode, don't watch this video, because spoiler alert, there's a decent amount of things to go over, so yeah, don't watch the episode unless you don't care about spoilers. If that's the case, cool then. But if you are continuing on with the video, if you are going to enjoy it, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Obviously, if you enjoyed the episode, drop a like on it as well. And of course, let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on this episode. What did you love? What did you hate? General thoughts, any theories? Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. I want to hear what you guys thought of it all. But of course, last episode was the introduction to Sue Dibney, or Sue Dearborn, who of course wasn't in this episode, and neither was Ralph. And then of course we had more Iris stuff, and like Barry really didn't have that much of a play in the episode. It was really, this episode was just where we had Barry. So now, did anyone else notice that the start of the episode was exactly like the pilot, like sort of like coming through the clouds, almost like Simpson style? It was exactly like the pilot, but without any voiceover, just this like eerie silence, which was pretty crazy. And then we have like Barry trying to find his parents' graves. They can't find them anywhere. It's just like this highway, I guess you could say. So they're not where they used to be. They aren't really anywhere. Like Barry searched multiple graveyards and just can't find his parents' graves, and this is just messing with him. So along with this, Barry is noticing a lot of different crisis changes now. Like I think there was like, was it 3 trillion or 3 billion or something? A ridiculous amount of changes. So that will be more focused on next week. I think next week is where they focus more on a lot of those crisis changes. Now, Chester and Camilla, and I guess in particular Chester, play a bigger role in this episode. They're at Star Labs, and they're the only ones there to really help Barry at the time. It seemed a bit forced, I could argue that, but I guess it allowed for interactions we haven't seen before, especially between Chester and Barry, which I guess they're going to try and push going forward. It makes you think, is Cisco leaving the... I know that the Cisco leaving the show is always a common topic, but if Chester constantly is pushed more into the show, it makes you think he's going to sort of replace Cisco in that role. And he was doing a lot of Cisco-esque type stuff in this episode. So that wouldn't surprise me. I think a lot of people like Chester, but it might be a bit of a challenge for people to get used to Chester if he is going to be like that Cisco replacement. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But of course, Chester does find out that Barry's the Flash, and he's a big Flash fanboy, so we see a lot of that in the episode. Now, Harley Rathaway / Pied Piper appears in this episode in a quick little cameo. I thought that was pretty cool. He is coming back later this season. We know he's in episode 18 at the very least. Who knows how many other episodes he's going to be in. We see him... we know that the Flash goes and visits him again at the end of the episode, but we don't get to see that. He is actually a villain again, so I guess like he was in season 1, but he does have new powers. It's almost like a sonic scream of sorts. Like his powers are sonic based, but it's almost like a canary cry, but he could fly with it. So I'm intrigued to see if we see more of that in that episode 18 or other future episodes he's in, but at least he's a villain. So yeah, and they also talk about like some messed up stuff, which I'm intrigued to see if they dive more into in the future, which I assume they will in like a future episode. Like they might have a proper arc around that. Now we do have Nash building a device to try and catch the spirits of Wells, or Harry Wells if you want to call it. But Harry doesn't appear when he's doing that. It's Sherlock. So Sherlock appears. So it's just multiple Wellses are going to be appearing, which is pretty crazy, and something at the end of the episode makes you go, oh damn, what's going to happen next? So we'll get to that. But Allegra does find the photo of her doppelganger and Nash, and she isn't the biggest fan. It causes some tension, and I thought we were going to get a resolution to that at the end of the episode, but we didn't. So I'm intrigued to see where that goes in the next couple of episodes as well. Now, early in the episode, we did hear that Frost, or, Caitlin was at Argus speaking to Ramsey Rosso, and then she brings it up later. Now, I wonder if he's going to come back into play later in the season, whether it's for an episode or just something around him is important to the plot. Because the fact that they're keeping him alive makes you think that they could do that, because they easily could have said, oh, Ramsey died in Argus protection because of his illness. So they easily could have done that. So the fact that they're keeping him alive and they're keeping him relevant to the story makes you wonder if he is going to play into it later on. I think he will. I don't know if it's going to be major, but I'd be intrigued to see where they're going to use him if they do. Now, the main plot of this episode revolves around this ear device that Barry's using. It sort of malfunctions due to Chester tinkering with it at first, and it essentially like mentally transports Barry I guess you could say through the past, but it's really in Grodd's mindscape with Caitlin and Thorne in the room around him, and Barry isn't really happy to be there. He's like, well, he's he's happy to see them to get him out of the cage, but then he realizes that he's actually Grodd in this situation. I was surprised he didn't figure it out earlier. I'm guessing, because of the way that Caitlin and Thorne were talking to him. But I thought it was cool, like how he looked in the water and saw the reflection of Grodd. Now, Grodd is actually still in Argus, and there's no crisis change there. He's not in the Bahamas. He's not in Gorilla City at this point. He's still in Argus with the telepathic crown thing, sort of keeping him like a coma, sort of. But Grodd wants help from Barry out of this, like his mental prison, everything like that. So it's sort of like a bit of a team up, if you want to call it. Now, I did like that the gatekeeper out of Grodd's mindscape was Solivar. I thought that was fairly fitting because of the whole Grodd and Solivar relationship, if you want to call it, and yeah, some of the drama there, if you want to call it. Now, we did get the Flash versus Solivar fight, which I thought looked pretty good for daytime. Like, when you do CGI in daytime, it can be dodgy even like on a movie level. Like, we've seen it in like movies that have like $200 million, $150 million budgets, and it doesn't look very good. So I thought for a TV level, they actually did a pretty good job for daytime CGI. It didn't look amazing, but it didn't look bad. So I was actually pretty, especially because Solivar's like a light, he's got like the white sort of fur on him. So I thought it looked pretty good for daytime CGI. But Solivar does defeat Barry, as pretty much Barry just tried to fight him the exact same way that we saw in Season 3 in the Gorilla City, like the Attack on Gorilla City episode. So, yeah, Barry should try some new tricks. You can throw lightning. Hey, you can throw lightning. Get a flash time. Slap him in the head or something. Try something new. Don't go back to the same old tricks. Now, we did find out that Grodd wasn't actually affected by Crisis mentally, so he remembers everything, but he can sense the changes in this new Crisis world. Now, obviously, there's going to be some plot holes there, I guess, in regards to why wouldn't Grodd remember the changes and everything like that, but I guess we'll just skip past. I'm not going to focus too much on that, because you'd just be running around in circles. But, some of the changes are like Gorilla City being on Earth Prime and all of that, so he wants to go home. That's where he feels the happiest, and he's not power hungry. He doesn't want to be the king of Gorilla City anymore. He just wants to go there, live in peace with his own kind. You can sort of just, you can see Barry just sort of connecting to Grodd in that situation, just wanting to be there to help. Now, the Grodd and Flash team up versus Solivar I thought was pretty good, but it was just crazy how we saw Flash giving Grodd his powers and they merge and it speeds to Grodd. Like, if you told me in season 1, 2, 3, 4, even last season, that we're going to have Grodd having the Speed Force and he was a speedster gorilla, I would have been like, okay, good meme, now get off some sort of like trippy drug you're on. That was crazy. It was so cool. But they do have to separate before exiting the Mindscape. Actually, quickly, I like how he had like an emblem sort of like scarred on him. Thought that was pretty cool. Like almost like Godspeeds almost. Like a lot of lightning strokes, if you want to call it. But anyway, but they do have to separate before exiting the Mindscape. Otherwise, they come out as one being, but everything connected to that would result in their death. So they have to separate, and actually Chester is the one to save the day there. So I guess Chester gets to redeem himself. He put Barry in that situation, gets him out of it, as well as helping Grodd out. So stuffed up once, but I guess a wrong makes two rights in the end of the day. Now, we did find out that Grodd was released by Argus, almost on like a probation thing by Lila. I'm still confused, like, is Lila still at Argus in Star City, or I'm still confused, or did she move with Diggle? Because didn't Diggle move to Metropolis and all of them did, so is she like on the phone, like working from distance? I'm not too sure what's happening there anyway. But he's got a tracking chip in there, so they'll be able to find him. Be interesting to see if Grodd comes back into play. The fact that Grodd was embedded with the Speed Force makes me wonder if they're going to do like the sort of like the perfect storm arc from the comics, where Grodd's like obsessed with the Speed Force, but in that case he needed it to survive. So I guess they did that sort of like this was a play on it. Like, he needed the Speed Force to get out of the situation to go live a perfect life, or the life he wanted, which in Perfect Storm in the comics, he was like dying, needed the Speed Force energy to survive, and they sort of come up with like a middle ground where he survives, but he doesn't have the Speed Force. So I guess this was a play on it, just not as like over the top. But it will be interesting to see if Grodd comes back into play later in the season, or just in future episodes. Now, Chester did hack the cemetery databases, so he's able to locate Barry's parents' grave. So Chester's earning some brownie points with Barry. Now, in regards to some other storylines in the episode, we did have Mirror Iris. She was only in, I guess, 3 scenes, I guess, if you count the end. But we had Mirror Iris stealing some files on Joseph Carver from Joe. Was wondering where that was going, but we'll talk about it right now. So we had the real Iris and Eva still trying to get out of the mirror world, and Eva's acting a bit weird. She doesn't want to like do anything there, and Eva ends up like putting her hands through the mirror with the device they were using, and she like burns up in the real world. And I guess I was thinking at the time, like, would the same happen to Iris if she tried to get out? But we find out that the mirror Iris is actually working with Eva, or is just most likely Eva, and like Eva can like replicate others' bodies that are in the mirror world with her. That'd be interesting, whether it's like she fragmented Iris and was able to control that fragmented version or work with her, or that version of Iris in the real world now is actually Eva controlling her, but Eva can only replicate people in the outside world that are actually in the mirror world. I'm intrigued to see how they explain that, or like just reveal that later in future episodes. I'm intrigued, but even like the fake Iris or mirror Iris, whatever you want to call her, had like the same burns as Eva. So that makes you think that they're the reflections. It's just that Eva can replicate whoever is in the mirror world with her. So say if like Joe fell in the mirror world, she could become Joe in the outside world. And then I guess maybe she gains Iris's memories, or at least recent memories. I'm intrigued to see what they do with that. I guess we're not going to get that for another episode or so. They might leave that as like in the back for now. But it was a decent revelation. But the end scene is one that I wasn't really... when I saw Nash there, I was like, okay, well, you're just going to get something with Allegra. And I thought, okay, he's approaching Allegra, just going to get some resolution. But then he's confronted by Sherlock, who, of course, we'd seen earlier in the episode. And he tells Nash that he is coming. And I was like, okay, who the hell's coming? And then the reverse flash eyes pop up, and he starts like almost like vibrating like reverse flash does. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay, so... a lot of people were theorizing. I think, I was like thinking as well, okay, well, if all these different Welleses are showing up, is there a potential that the Thorn version of Wells could show up as well in this memory? And I'm just interested to see like what potential crisis changes could have affected Thorn. Is he in a different situation completely? Like, we know next episode Wally's coming back, and they're apparently meant, like, Wally and Barry meant to take on one of the Flash's greatest enemies. And at this point, we don't know who it is. So is it Reverse Flash? We know it's death of the Speed Force, so is it something about the Speed Force which allows Reverse Flash to come back out? I am intrigued to see what they do there, because I've always said that I don't want them to overuse Reverse Flash unless it fits the storyline. I don't think it necessarily fits the storyline amazingly here, but it does work in with all like the spirits of the Welleses, if you want to call it. So I'm excited to see what they do there. It's always cool to have Reverse Flash show up, and I'm just excited to see how they implement him. So... yeah, but overall, this episode was just really enjoyable. It was a fun episode of The Flash. I don't even think it was really that fillery, because I think it actually moved a lot of the Iris and Eva storyline in a handful of scenes, which is pretty impressive. And depending on where the Nash stuff goes, whether Reverse Flash is just for one episode or it's for multiple episodes, that's for us to wait and see. But if it is for multiple, then I guess it is, it's very, very relevant. But just having the Grodd stuff, I think, was cool. Like, this was fun filler for most of it, with also stuff moving the plot for the season ahead as well. So this is up there with one of my favorites of the season. As I said, the CGI was pretty good, especially for the daylight scenes. I thought they did a pretty good job. And just seeing Speedster Gorilla, who thought we'd ever see that? But it's just pretty crazy that we did. And well, that just ticks off one on the bucket list, I guess. Just tick off Speedster Gorilla. We don't need to see it anymore. Actually, bring it back if you want to, but if you don't, I think I'm content. I think I'm happy with what we got. We'll go with that. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support and, I guess, excitement from what we saw in this episode. Let me know all of your various opinions in the comments section down below. What did you love from this episode? What didn't you like too much? Let me know all of your thoughts and theories in the comments. And, of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And, yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.